Hello and welcome to Cinema Eclectica, part of the Geek Show Podcast Network. We are the Geek Show's dedicated movie podcast. I'm Graham, and this week I've been joined by...
A burning brain. No, sorry, my name's Rob. I've watched a movie that I'm going to be talking about later has destroyed me in ways that I didn't know was possible. But yes, I'm Rob, I think. I'm sure. I might be Super Rob, I don't know.
You're forever going to look back on this as the summer of Crazy World.
Yeah, that's... Oh, I just don't know what... Up is down and down is up. I don't know what it is. And left is tomato. I just don't know.
So that might have been enough of a clue for some of you to work out that in the second half of the show we are concentrating on We Are One, the global film festival with films that have premiered at Venice, Cannes, Toronto, Tribeca, everywhere around the world, all being released for 10 days on YouTube for free as a fundraiser to support cinemas.
Very noble.
Very noble, yes. Before that, though, we have a bit of unfinished business. Last week, we talked about our least favourite adaptations. God, did we ever talk about our least favourite adaptations.
Apparently people have stuff that's unresolved about certain adaptations.
It was the Andrex of podcasts, soft, strong, and almost unbelievably long.
And not being stolen by a small koala either.
Yes.
Oh no, that's charming, but still.
Andrex has the puppy, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes. I don't know if that's still true or whether that's an astonishingly out-of-date reference I've just made, but anyway. This motivates our question of the week for this week to be the flip side of that coin, saying which adaptations do you think improve on their source material? A few replies from Facebook and Twitter. Mark Lawrence says, "Let the Right One In" springs to mind. The violence in the film is used very sparingly, which makes it much more shocking than the book, which tries far too hard in that regard.
I feel like that's a movie I really need to go back to see, because it was one of those, it set the world on fire, and then nobody ever talked about it ever again since.
That was quite odd, wasn't it?
So I feel like it's worth another look. It's been a long time since I've seen that one.
I do like Thomas Alfredson, and when you give him the money to shoot the whole film, hint hint, producers of The Snowman, he makes good movies.
Hope that hasn't killed his career, you know.
Yes, yeah. Mikey Toes says Disney's The Little Mermaid with a much happier ending than the bittersweet one of the original story. I mean, bittersweet is one way of putting it.
It's Hans Christian Andersen sort of grim fairy... Well, all the Grimm brothers. That world of fairy tales, just don't bother going outside because it's all horrible and it's all going to eat you and murder you up. Which is basically the morals.
Quite good lessons for our lockdown age, really.
It is. There's quite a lot in common with the grim Scandinavia as there is modern day everywhere.
He also notes that there's good songs and characters, which, pretty uncontroversial there, I would say.
Slightly racist though, but that's Disney for you, isn't it? I mean, they can't have a... Yeah, I mean, Sebastian the Crab, tad, smidgen.
Maybe, yeah, fair point. On Twitter, our colleague Aidan says, "To Kill a Mockingbird, and if Hollywood decides to adapt Go Set a Watchman, I will throw up in my hands."
It'd be amazing if he had that sort of ability to just do it on command.
Adapting Go Set a Watchman would be pretty easy, wouldn't it? You just take the film of To Kill a Mockingbird, cut out all the bits that are good. There you go.
Yeah. Is that all the answers?
Ashley Lane has a couple. He says, "No Country for Old Men. The book is very good, but the film is a classic," which I would agree with. I think No Country for Old Men as a book is very good, but no one would ever say it's the greatest Cormac McCarthy novel. But the film is extraordinary.
They've tried. I don't know whether people would sort of agree that Blood Meridian is his best, but
I would. I certainly would.
They've tried to make that and failed over and over and over again.
I think the only person who I think could actually pull it off would be Alexei German, and he is dead, which tends to put you out of contention
Yes.
in youth-obsessed Hollywood. He also adds, also to be slightly bitchy, Hannibal is better than the source novel because the filmmakers realise how ridiculous the novel is.
Yeah, there's a fascinating story behind all of that. How it was very popular. I forget the name of it.
Silence of the
There we
Lambs?
go. So there was a lot of pressure on him to write books faster than he normally would,
Yeah.
and it resulted in a bit of old nonsense, really.
It really did, didn't it? I quite like Hannibal, the film, as a sort of mad attempt at Hollywood giallo. It's certainly not Ridley Scott's worst film. Good lord, the competition for that title has grown since.
Is that the one with the dinner party and Gary Oldman plays somebody who's had his face eaten?
By pigs, yes.
That's an odd movie.
It really
How
is.
Hollywood made that, I still don't know to this day.
A few we've just got in the chat from producer Rob. He says, wrote to petition, which I've never read the original comic of. The Devil Wears Prada. Fight Club. Now, there is a good suggestion. Even Chuck Palahniuk admits that the movie Fight Club has a better ending than his novel.
He's not a especially great author, to be honest. It was one of those things where Fight Club was massive. I thought, I'm going to check out the guy's books. And then, what was the one it was called? It's got the notorious swimming pool scene.
Oh, Haunted.
Yeah, that was one of those moments where I says, yeah, I've had enough. Not reading them anymore. Done. Fine.
I kind of like Chuck Palahniuk's early novels, but it would be fair to say that he has a sort of limited pool of things that interest him, which he is basically burned through by now.
Odd choice of words given my recalling of that story, but sure.
Yes, that was a bad idea.
I was reading that on the bus into university, and I got very woozy and nearly passed out.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that sounds like what you would do.
yeah.
He also adds Train Spotting, which, I'm going to be contentious. I'm not a big fan of it in any form.
I've never watched it. I've never feel like I needed to either.
Yeah, it's sort of like if you. I'm not necessarily a stickler for grueling realism in films, as anyone who has heard me talk about Ken Loach will know. But there's just something about turning heroin addiction into a way proper lads' night out film that feels a bit weird.
Yeah. It was a specific time in the 90s when that was just all a go.
Yeah. It's if you want to understand the appeal of Train Spotting, just listen to the soundtrack, and that's the point.
Yeah.
He's come up with some more while we've been saying this, actually. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which of course was the inspiration for Blade Runner.
Indeed.
The Sheep Pig, the Dick King-Smith novel which Babe was adapted from.
Okay.
Possibly contentious one, this Empire of the Sun.
I don't know. You could make the debate either way in that one, I think.
Yeah. I have a minor resentment towards the novel Empire of the Sun, if only because a lot of very dull literary critics always say, oh, of course, his Ballard's best novel was Empire of the Sun. And it's like, no, that's just the only one that isn't science fiction, so you think it's okay to like it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that should be taken out on the book itself.
It's one of those things, isn't it? They're not horrors, they're thrillers, so it's okay to like them.
Absolutely, yeah.
I have 3, and 2 of them are massively populist, but, I mean, come on. The first one is Stephen King's The Shining, which became Kubrick's The Shining.
Stole one of mine.
Which, frankly, the original book, if you've seen the adaptation of the TV show, as a TV show, I mean, you'll realise that Kubrick just made it good.
Yes!
I think is the easiest way to put it. The other populist one would be Lord of the Rings.
Ah, right, interesting. I think I can get behind you there.
It's one of those things. It was so major. I read the first book,
Mm,
and it's not well written, like
mm.
in any way, shape, or form. And the whole Tom Bombadillo thing. I don't know what he was doing there.
So rubbish. Yes, I hate Tom Bombadil. I want his stupid little head on a stick.
Well, maybe somewhere in that universe, it is. I mean, each of the directors cut about 1,000 hours long, so you never know.
Yes.
And the third one would be another J.G. Ballard one that instantly came to mind there when you were talking about Empire of the Sun, but High Rise.
Oh, now that's contentious. I don't necessarily disagree, but it's
Not
interesting.
necessarily better, just different, and not what I would
Yeah,
have assumed a movie like that could be.
that's fair enough. Yes. For me, you've kind of preempted one of my choices, but I wanted to take it in a different direction. Rather than say these films are definitively better, I think there are two directors who routinely improve the sources that they adapt. One of them's Stanley Kubrick,
Yes.
because, as you say, Stephen King spent a lot of time and money on a mini-series just to prove that Stanley Kubrick made the right decisions adapting The
And he's
Shining.
still angry about it now, Stephen King. I mean, come on, get over it. Bloody hell.
You will never forgive him for cutting the rubbish hedge animals coming to life. But not just that, I think A Clockwork Orange is infinitely better with that absolutely shamefully bad last chapter cut out.
Oh, okay. I've not read the book. It's not. Yeah. Doesn't seem a pleasant.
In
It
the
doesn't seem a
book,
pleasant read, to be fair.
in the book, at the end, Alex just decides not to be bad and rape people anymore because it's like free will in it.
Oh, that seems like an article written in the Telegraph, sponsored by the UK government, sort of ending.
Yes. It's so bad. There's also, I remember Douglas Adams saying in an interview once, there's a book by Arthur C. Clarke called The Lost Worlds of 2001. And Adams said, I was reading it, and it's just Clarke going, look at this idea he left out, and this one, and this one. And by the end, Adams said, by the end, you come away with it thinking, God, Stanley Kubrick was really good, wasn't he?
He was, yes. Was the killing an adaptation as well? I feel like it might have been, given it's like a very literary noir.
I don't know, actually. It could have been, but yes, not sure. The other director who I always think of in terms of this question is David Cronenberg.
Oh yes, he's got a great track record of that.
I think both of them have just one film where they maybe bit off more than they could chew. And in both cases, I like them as films, but I don't think they outdo the source. And that's Lolita and Naked Lunch.
Yeah, I mean, how he managed to make something out of Cosmopolis.
It is incredible,
It's a
isn't it?
minor miracle.
It's basically word for word the book, and I mean, I love Don DeLillo, but everyone in it deserves an Oscar for making Don DeLillo's mad dialogue into something that you can say.
I've only read one of his books. I think it was White Noise, about
Yeah,
a lecturer who does Hitler studies, and that's an odd book.
yes. I do love Don DeLillo. I think my favourite is Running Dog, where he tries to write a sort of Chandler-esque pulp crime story about a quest for Hitler's sex tape.
Okay.
It's a book that exists. But seriously, most Cronenberg adaptations easily better the source. I mean, if you've read the original comic of A History of Violence, it is Drek, I think. It has this killer idea, but the ending, which Cronenberg junks entirely, is just hilariously stupid.
It's one of his greatest, I think, History of Violence.
Yeah.
It's really underappreciated by a lot of the purists who think he should be a horror guy and horror guy only.
Yeah, which is crazy because it's pretty horrific on its own terms.
Just a final mention, I just thought of it there. As you were mentioning, sort of people who make like a source text actually palatable. Richard Ayoade is the double.
Oh, that's clever. Yes, yeah, I would agree with
It's
that.
Dostoevsky, as far as I'm concerned, is almost unreadable, but each to their own.
Yes.
That's a really fun Richard Ayoade movie, and hope he comes back to direct them one day because he could really do something special building off that.
Yeah, I understand why he's chose a career of just going on holiday for Channel 4, but I really want to see another film by him.
Agreed.
So, we've got a streaming spotlight feature now, right?
Yes, we have. It's After Midnight, co-directed between Jeremy Gardner and Christian Stella. It's on demand, but it's also coming out on the 8th, I think it was, with his previous movie, Jeremy Gardner's previous movie, The Battery.
Right.
The Battery was possibly the lowest budget zombie movie, which is good, I've seen. About two slackers who are just trying to survive. There's no great moral there. It's...
Yeah.
I think the best way to put it is it's that sort of Linklater style of just characters talking, but it's a zombie apocalypse.
That's good. I like that idea.
And he did that on like a shoestring budget. And in the interim, he's become this incredibly underrated actor in low-budget horror movies. He's just a great naturalist performer even. And as well as directing this, or co-directing this, he also is the lead.
Right.
It's, again, using that same sort of formula. It's a romantic movie in which Jeremy Gardner and Brie Grant are a couple, a strange couple. And there's the scenes of them having great chemistry and just being a very loving, doting couple. And it'll go fast forward to present day, in which he's on his own. He's got his magnificent beard. Because if you can say one thing about Jeremy Gardner, that man knows how to grow a beard.
Good to know.
But he's bitter. He runs his bar, and at night, as the title suggests, after midnight, there's a monster which is stalking his house. Rather violently as well. One line he uses is, "It eats his cat like an apple." So you don't see it. It's in like a sequence which is very well staged towards like the end of the middle act, where he goes out in the middle usually when it attacks, he stays at home because it's a big monster. It's really dark out. He doesn't want to get hurt. He's had enough, so he goes out, and it's in the middle of the night, and the only things you see are from the illumination of his shotgun going off. So it's really well staged in that regard.
That's good, yeah. Kind of like that bit in, I know we've both seen The True History of the Kelly Gang.
Yes. I mean, that has more money to it, but the philosophy of the scene is the same. And it jumps between these two sequences of modern day and this romantic relationship with the two of them. And it's really well positioned, it's really well played, the characters have a great chemistry, they're both very, very good. When the two timelines intersect, there's... I guess it's indie film 101, in the sense of each character has this really, really well acted, really heartfelt monologue expressing how they feel. Which sounds like I'm being negative about it. But I'm not, because it plays into that sort of feeling of Jeremy Gardner's work, at least with him at the director's chair anyway, where it has that... It feels real. It feels improvised. It doesn't feel like character beats on a sheet. It feels like these are real people embodying these roles, which makes these monologues feel more like just the character opening their heart rather than an actor remembering their lines really, really good.
Yes.
Which is probably the greatest point of improvised dialogue, to be honest.
Yeah.
This is the second time I've seen it. And the first time, I was expecting a horror movie. Pretty bitterly disappointed. I could appreciate it on a craft level, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So
Yeah.
yeah, and the second viewing, I was much more interested in what it is.
Yeah.
I kind of got to do a mild spoiler here because it talks about something which I hate so very much in some modern horror movies, or horror movies in general, where it suggests that, is this monster real, or is it all in his
Yes.
head?
The metaphor dimension.
And 10 times out of 10, yeah, always in his head. And it's kind of dull, isn't it? But I don't know whether he's doing it as a satirical takeaway or he just really likes monsters. But in this one, yeah, it's real.
Right.
And it gives a very, very satisfying conclusion, which you do not see coming at all. And it's just a really interesting movie in the mould of a thing which is becoming increasingly common in the indie horror space, where it'll take a long time to establish the characters, and then the last 15 minutes, here's a really scary monster piece.
Yeah.
It was what bugged me. No, it's very popular, but was it Trey Schultz who did It Comes at Night?
Oh, yeah, I remember you being kind of bothered by that. Yeah.
Because it logically drove itself into holes that just didn't make any sense to me. But this, it gets by that by the characters being real, the characters being likeable. It's got Justin Benson of Benson and Moorhead as one of the acting roles, as sort of the stiff, straight brother, in-law, potentially. And a actually, honest to God, funny comedy sidekick, a comedy relief character.
That's a rarity in horror films, right? Comic relief that's actually really funny.
Because there's a great bit when they go out into the cornfields. Jeremy Gardner's got his shotgun. His friend's got an axe because he forgot his gun. And he's talking about a TV show he's seen about how if aliens existed, they won't look like anything like us.
Yeah.
And he said it'd be like a tentacle monster with 6 eyes, and it just makes all that sort of noises. And he says if that happened, and it's in like a very, very typical sort of southern character way.
Yeah.
It's very over the top. He says I'll probably have a nervous breakdown, and it's just the way it's delivered. Because it comes from a sense of a character rather than I'm going to give you a punchline now.
Yeah.
It's very, very funny, you know. And another thing, there's a disgusting thing he does as well. I can't remember the specific term, but he says to get a free drink, I think I can't remember what it's called, but it doesn't matter. You drink the juice of the beer which is falling into the mat underneath it. You just drink the mat.
Oh man,
which is disgusting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great indie movie, I think, and I really like the cut of Jeremy Gardner's Jew.
Good. I think my problem with the tendency to like go overboard saying is it all in their heads that you mentioned is that if I'm watching a monster movie, I'm probably already thinking about, is the monster metaphorical for anything? Because I know how to read films and I'm not a total dumbass.
I think one movie got away with it. I can't remember the name of it. I watched it quite recently. It's got is it Anne Hathaway? About the Korean movie Monster.
Oh, Colossal.
Yeah, I think that gets away with it. I think that has its cake and eats it too.
The thing is with Colossal and with something like The Babadook, which I was also thinking of, is that the questioning of it is just in the terms that it would be if this was happening in reality. It's just in terms of, are you sure this is happening? It sounds pretty crazy. I don't like horror movies that keep underlining their subtext as though they're writing a thesis on themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
something like The Babadook just gives you it. You understand what the subtext of it is because the movie is good.
The weird thing is, Daniel isn't real. Also, it functions as its own thing within the world, but at the same time, it believes itself to be writing this incredibly intellectual thesis on the state of mind of millennials or whatever, and it's just trying too hard to impress upon the fact that it's really clever. It just made me angry.
I think if we're talking about the sort of point zero for us being annoyed by this, there is that awful bit in, I can't remember which of the Hostel movies it is, but one of the first two, where someone just says, "Look at what happened in Abu Ghraib."
Oh, come on.
Shut up.
Oh, blimey, that's bad.
Yeah.
Perplexed by the pompous, ponderous piffle purveyed by normal art critics? Well, you've come to the right place, because we're not normal. We take a not-so-serious look at the serious worlds of art and literature. Join Sarah, Andrew, Rob and Graham for a piffle-free journey through the cultural landscape of the 21st century. Literary loitering. Because you can't make a cultural omelette without smashing a few eggheads.
So don't forget, seriously, never forget that we also have a YouTube channel which we're gearing up to put more of our content on, particularly video game content. If you want to keep us making these and the podcasts, you can donate to our Patreon at www.patreon.com/The Geek Show. We're on Facebook, just search for The Geek Show, and on Twitter at TGS_The Geek Show.
Hi, this is Sonny Strait, and you lucky devils are listening to The Geek Show. Consider yourself very, very fortunate.
And if you do go onto our website, you can see some of our written reviews of films that we won't necessarily cover on the show. For instance, Aidan has a review of Distant Journey from Second Run, which is the first fictional film to deal with the Holocaust.
Yeah, there's been a lot since. Hopefully that's one of the better ones, and given it's on Second Run, I'd like to think it actually is too.
But for now, we are doing We Are One, the Global Film Festival launched on YouTube on just this Friday gone. I've got a few short films I saw and one feature, so I'll just run through the short films quickly because it's a diverse programme. There's some shorts, some features, there's some VR stuff which I have nowhere near the technical capability to actually enjoy, but I wish I did.
On the shots, there's an awful lot of DreamWorks ones, so it's not all obscure world cinema. There's some pretty accessible stuff there too.
Which is a good lead-in, actually, because one of the ones I watched, I think, is one of the DreamWorks ones. It's Bird Karma, which is an animated short about a stork looking to catch incredibly tasty-looking golden fish. I don't know, you can never quite tell these days whether something's cel-animated or whether someone's used some flashy, pun intended, computer program and treated it to look like cel. But the character design is elastic and fun enough to make you think of classic cel animation, your Tex Avery's and stuff like that. Its main asset is the score by Nora Kroll Rosenbaum, which is absolutely fantastic, I think. I also saw Egg, which is, it built itself as the second three-letter film title from Michael J. Goldberg.
Post the quotes like that. Who needs good press?
I have no idea what the first one was. This is a film about a man having a conversation in a diner with someone who will not stop talking for long enough to eat a scrambled egg. He daydreams about what that egg could have gone through to get to her table. The results is, well, let's just say I didn't realise that the dairy industry was so much like Breaking Bad.
Okay.
It is essentially a series of completely insane escalating plot twists, and in as much as it does that, I did find it pretty funny. It's wildly indulgent, but, I mean, not as indulgent as something like No One Left Behind, a short I watched by Guillermo Arriaga, who started off, I think at the start of his career, he was Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu's regular screenwriter. And I know for some people that's very exciting, and for some people it rings big alarm bells.
So this is probably going to be incredibly bleak, given the early work them two did together.
Unfortunately, it's got all of the worst aspects of his work. It's bleak, as you say. It's really soap operatic. It has characters which I found impossible to believe in. I mean, there's one of the lead soldiers in it who has gone to repatriate the body of a fallen comrade to his village in Mexico, played by Danny Houston, very good actor, I think.
Yes.
There's a bit where he's having dinner with the family and he says, "What's this?" And he listens to the answer. He goes, "Taco, taco, yes." It's like, everyone knows what a taco is. I live in Teesside. Our Mexican population is next to nothing. I know what a taco is. I'm pretty sure someone who lives in America, a country which I understand is quite close to Mexico, knows what a taco is. So it's full of silly stuff like that, and it just feels like a draft of a Iraq War script that has been in Arriaga's drawer since about 2007 that he's just dusted off and felt now really dated, really bad, I thought. So let's end this short roundup with something very different. The Yalta Conference Online is, I suppose, another war film, albeit a very different one. One which imagines what the historic post-World War II conference between Stalin, Roosevelt and Churchill would have looked like if it was done by Zoom.
Oh, fabulous.
The casting enriches the joke in all sorts of ways. You have not lived until you have seen Joseph Stalin played by a middle-aged Japanese woman.
What?
The scene where they are all trying to get appropriate pictures of their home country on as their Zoom backdrop is just terrific. I think my favourite thing about this, and it has to be said, it's a bit indulgent. It's about 40 minutes, which feels too long for the joke, but it has a sort of secondary unintentional joke, which is it's made by Koji Fukada, who did Harmonium.
Which is about as far away from sense of humour as you could possibly get.
Yeah, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, however overstretched this may be, this is a really dumb joke made by someone who's been released by Eureka Masters of Cinema. And I got to admit, I did enjoy it more because of that.
Yeah, I mean, Harmonium was just, it's like the new face of slow cinema. That's the level it's pitched at his career so far, anyway.
This is kind of minimalist, I guess. You know, it's basically 3 shots with people sat in front of the camera. It's just that they are all Japanese people playing World War II era world leaders.
I can see the fun in that.
Yeah. There is also quite a lot of fun in the feature I watched, which is, and I've been looking forward to seeing this title all week, Ib Allay Ooh. And yes, that is how you're meant to say it.
Okay.
It's the first fictional feature from the Indian documentarian Pratik Vats. And it has a certain documentary element to it, although don't mistake that for this being some sort of self-conscious art house experiment, which is designed to make critics like me use the word liminal. It is a lot more fun than you might think. It's set in New Delhi. It's about Anjani, played very well by Shardul Bhardwaj, who is employed as a job that actually exists in India as a professional monkey scarer.
That'd be a fun job.
You'd think. India has a big problem with feral monkeys, a problem which is compounded by the fact that one of India's most beloved gods, the hero of the ancient Indian epic, the Ramayana, is Hanuman, who takes the form of a monkey on Earth. So to a lot of Indians, to a lot of Hindus, the monkey is almost as sacrosanct as the cow is. And this opens up a weird paradox. Anjani is trained by someone who basically spells it out and says, the god has become a pest.
It's an interesting angle for somewhere that gods are so important in everyday society, like India. That's a very interesting stance.
Even Richard Dawkins has not called in the exterminators to deal with God.
And you'd think he'd be the first in the queue, wouldn't you?
Yes! I mean, maybe he will be now he's seen this. A lot of people have seen this. This has been one of the most popular films in We Are One, largely, I think, because India's kind of big.
I'll give it a watch. Yeah, sounds compelling.
I did enjoy it a lot. I think one of the things that it has that an outside director wouldn't be able to get is that Vats is not really pushing for this job to be seen as a metaphor for anything. He does get into a lot of different political areas. There is a really chilling BJP rally where a loudspeaker insists that nationalism must fill our hearts, which is creepy and Orwellian. But the actual monkey clearing it's a job. They've got to clear the monkeys. The main metaphorical point of it is that up until fairly recently, they used to get rid of monkeys using a different type of monkey called a langur monkey. Allay, by the way, is what it sounds like when a human tries to imitate the call of a langur monkey.
That's why it's called that.
That's the thing. So you have this situation, and this is an irony which is, I think, wisely underplayed, that working class Indians are being sent in to do a job that people wouldn't send a monkey to do. And the dehumanisation of that, the disrespect of that, is part of what drives its satire. I think it's a very funny film. It has real bite, and it's a work of what in India is termed parallel cinema, which is their term for indies, basically, which means that it can be a bit spicier in its language and in its political viewpoint than a standard Bollywood film could get away with.
That's a fabulous title for something.
We should adopt that, shouldn't we? Parallel cinema, it's great.
Yeah, it's a fabulous indie cinema. It's just very matter of fact, but parallel. It's so.
It's like a parallel universe. It's a whole different world to mainstream film. Yeah,
Which is spot on a description. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It has something of the kind of Indian neo-realist air of Meera Nair's films. I'm a very big fan of Meera Nair, particularly her Indian films like Salam Bombay and Monsoon Wedding, but it also has this kind of slacker kind of comedy, this satirical bite, which neo-realist films do not often do. And then in the last third, something completely outrageous happens, which I won't spoil, but I will say this. One of the peculiarities of Hinduism is that they are very keen to express their faith in areas which would be seen as a bit sort of, a lot of Western religions might turn their nose up at. And one of the main versions of this that I've heard is that people often refer to Hanuman as a kind of superhero. They use that as a kind of outreach tactic to say that Hanuman is kind of like the first superhero.
Yeah.
In the third act of Allay, this enters the narrative in a way that is completely bats.
Well, maybe in every week it would be, but not this week.
Well, yeah, I think it's got competition this week because, tell the listeners what you watched, Rob.
Well, how do I start this? People will probably remember a few years ago when there was lots. It was turning into sort of a meme joke of Hollywood, Ugandan Hollywood, in which it was Who Killed Captain Alex? The name of the movie.
That was it. Yeah.
Which became it took on sort of like a mythological role, kind of like The Room has.
Yeah.
Within film culture. Well, this is his new movie, Nabwa Ig Nabwit IGG is the name of the director. It's Crazy World. Wow, where does this start? It's kind of really endearing. I don't know what it was like with the things that you watched, but before it kind of had this moment of sort of a documentary style shooting where it's got him acknowledging the fact that they're in the We Are One program.
Oh, right.
And it's great for filmmaking. And recently there's been a lot of bad weather, so our office is blown down, but the one part we have kept is the Hall of Fame, really. It's anybody who's acted or died in a Wakaliwood movie has signed their name on this board, which is really, it's incredibly wholesome, just really nice moment.
Yes.
From which it transforms into, well, we've all been to the cinema and we've all seen the adverts of you wouldn't steal a bike, so you wouldn't pirate a movie.
Yeah.
Well, in this,
expertly parodied on Futurama as well. Yes.
In this, it's got the pirate hunters, who are a group of people sat around laptops, and when someone pirates the movie, they strong-arm them in the most insane way. It's got one person who's locked up, says, "I've got a 20-year prison sentence to Hobson Shaw, but it was totally worth it." Get loads of little, and about 2/3 of the way in, it's only like an hour long, so it's very much to the point. It's about as long as it could be, to be honest. But about 40 minutes in, there's another instance where it kind of jumps all over the world, people who are pirating this movie, and it's got like footage of people from like France, Canada, Japan, England, all over the place, and like zoom, like a bit of zoom footage.
Yeah.
Like a really nice way to sort of incorporate the situation, really.
Yeah.
But what the movie is, right? Imagine having a headache and someone screaming at you for an hour. Because on page, it starts off with Duarda Bayasso, who's the world's greatest commando and father, who comes home one day and out of the blue, a tiger mafia gang run by a child who wants to steal children to sacrifice to make his buildings stay up. Takes
hang on, right? I was right on board until the buildings.
Yeah, and Dauda Bayoso, the greatest commando and father, super commando, you might say, goes against the mafia, or the super mafia, as you might say. But these aren't normal kids. I mean, at the beginning, It's got these normal kids doing like kung fu regimes in the car park, the ghetto, which is all this has been shot. So these are kung fu kids.
Right. Okay.
Kung fu kids. I can't get all straight in my head. It's so confusing.
This is the first one where you feel like you have to note down the plot synopsis as you watch it, kind of like you have to write down anything you sort of think of when you're drunk.
Yeah, feels like I don't think I got over it. I think I got a massive hangover from watching this.
Wakaliwood hangover.
It's got a character who you call Bruce, and he's called Bruce Yu, like Bruce Lee, but from Uganda.
Right.
And the thing which is probably a bit most well known about this is the fact that the director is giving constant commentary over everything which is happening. He goes like, Super Commando, Super Mafia, Super Frank. And he says it over everything. Not just super. He goes, he has like comments about everything. And he doesn't say them. He shouts them. He shouts them constantly.
It sounds a bit like watching a film with my dad, really.
It might well be, yeah. Just like constant shouting, constant comments. There's like supporting characters who he's basically shouting over with the dialogue, which supporting characters should be saying.
Right.
I know I've said before on this show, in the case of like Kuso and other things like that, one of the things that I really look for in movies is something where I watch it and I think, I've never seen anything like that before. That was great. I think this tests that theory. Because there's literally nothing anybody could ever do which would be remotely close to this. This is, when you call other things one of a kind, it's doing this a disservice. Because it's so weird. You will not have seen anything like it before. I just can't speak words. But everything, there's like bad CG all over the place. It constantly breaks the fourth wall. It has like a sequence where they're talking about the world's greatest commando, and it cuts to a bit after it where he's sort of jumping off the roof onto the floor, and there's like a green screen, and the director's saying, "You're the world's greatest commando. You can't be scared of jumping." It's like it breaks the fourth wall constantly. It has the PSA, which just appears like that scene in Gremlins in the cinema with Hulk Hogan. And it cuts away from events to go to like a city nearby. I can't remember the name of the character, but like Uganda's great rock star and actor Frankie Rasta, a guy who's just in the streets selling CDs in movies. I don't know what this is, Graham.
I mean, when you said about the director saying the dialogue of the supporting characters along with them, it sounds like he's made the world's first karaoke movie.
Maybe. I mean, 5 minutes in, he gives away the moral of the story. It says this is a kid's movie, and in this movie, it's about you not trusting everybody, okay, kids? Sometimes adults do bad mistakes too. But he doesn't say it, he shouts it. It's like, this is like a movie of those videos on YouTube which tells you what the ending of a movie's about.
That's ahead of its time, then. A movie that incorporates its own crappy ending explained video. That's good. I want those guys to be put out of business.
I mean, on the one end, this is so bad. It's almost apocalyptically bad. But at the same time, it's very funny. I don't know what to say. It's kind of beyond review.
I think I'm... Is it wrong that I'm sold?
Well, you should be, but I think be plenty hydrated. Make sure you don't have a headache going in. Because it's just... I don't know what it is, Graham. You can't give it a star rating. You can't give it like a review. Because if you review it as a reviewer, you're basically calling out of its basic mistakes and its cheapness. But that's not the spirit this thing's in. It's so confusing. I'm glad I've seen it, though, because this is one of those things, like, on, like, a list of movies which every film fan should see. I think every film fan should see a Hollywood movie, because it's just unlike everything.
And, without something like We Are One, where would you get the chance?
Yeah, I mean, I've wanted to see one of these movies for a while. I didn't think it'd be quite as manic, but I'm glad I've got it. We Are One, thank you for giving me this opportunity to see such a wacky thing.
Right, I think that about wraps it up for this week. Next week, we're doing... does anyone remember cinemas?
Oh, those are loads of places where you got, like, ice cream and popcorn, isn't it?
Yeah, it was basically like a massive germ factory, and we loved it because it was the before time and we didn't know.
And those drinks, which are basically like a week worth of drink, but you got it and you sat in a room and you drank it all in 2 hours.
Yes. And then got surprised when you wanted to pee halfway through the film. Yeah, great days.
Great days.
Well, we are doing a B-side special, which is films that were released in their cinemas, but that we did not get the chance to cover. And we haven't decided what we're doing yet, but there are some heavy hitters that we could do. We could have done The Invisible Man, 1917, we never got round to, Misbehaviour. You know, there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know when it's going to happen again, you know.
Yeah.
A proper B-sides episode like this, but yeah, there's lots that we could talk about. I mean, I've seen 1917, which, yeah.
So yeah, and enjoy it while it lasts, because as you say, this lockdown could ease and there could only be like 2 films out, 2 films that want to take the plunge. Or worse, it could be like that situation that's been happening in Russia and South Korea, where Woody Allen's new movie gets to the top of the international box office because nobody else released anything.
Well, I doubt it's going to happen again for him, so at least he got it once.
Yes. But yes, until next week when we'll be coming at you with that, that's been your Love for Cinema Eclectica. I've been Graham.
And I've been Rob.
See you next week.